I ultimately got our office's resident food thief fired. And it all started with a stolen box of terrible, sound like cookies. But to understand why this became my personal crusade, you need to understand a few things about my life at the time. There are a couple of things about me that made having a food thief particularly infuriating. First, I have a lot of severe food allergies, which means I can't just run down to the cafeteria or a local restaurant for lunch. Second, I had a new baby at home that I was breastfeeding. If you think pregnant people are hungry, you should know that the caloric requirement for breastfeeding is another 100 to 200 calories on top of that. I was in a state of perpetual, ravenous hunger. Between the new baby and the sleep deprivation, half the time I didn't even manage to show up to work with a lunch I'd packed. I'd either run out of time to make one, or in my exhausted haze, I'd pack it and leave it sitting on the kitchen counter at home. My solution was to create a fortress of snacks in my office, a hoard of non-perishable foods I could rely on. These were all snacks that were specifically free of my allergens. Many of them were expensive specialty foods that, let's be honest, just don't taste as good as the real thing and cost twice as much. As one person online commented, for those with allergies, food thieves are a special brand of utter bastard. But I was barely sleeping, and I figured I'd dessert something nice, even if it was a sad, gluten-free cookie. So, when I first came back from maternity leave, assembled my snack hoard, and started noticing things missing, I genuinely thought I was losing my mind. The exhaustion was real. Boxes of Skittles were disappearing faster than I thought I was eating them. I'd come into my office in the morning and items on my desk wouldn't be where I remembered leaving them. The weirdest thing happened with a bag of chips. I had folded the top of the bag down to avoid getting my arm greasy, and I secured it with a bag clip. The next morning, I came in to find the bag had been unrolled and then reclipped. Wow, I thought. I must be more tired than I thought. I rolled it back down, went about my day, and the next morning, it was unrolled again. It was just a constant string of little things like that, making me question my own memory, making me think the post-baby brain fog was worse than I'd imagined. And then, I got the flu. I was out of the office for an entire week. Left behind in my desk drawer was a nearly full box of Enjoy Life cookies. They're not enjoyable, but they are free of all major allergens. They cost about $5 for a dozen sad little sand pies with a sprinkle of cinnamon. I had eaten just one row of these cookies before I went home sick. For a full week, I was at home, definitely not eating anything from my snack hoard. But someone else was. When I finally returned to work, I opened my box of cookies and found one. A single, solitary cookie was left. Upon further inspection, an opened box of candy was completely gone. And the thief had done me the courtesy of opening a brand new box for me. Except they had followed the push here to open instructions on the box. Instead of just ripping the end open like I always do, a habit they should have been well aware of after stealing from me for 2 months. The thief had no idea that this single act of brazen entitlement, opening a new box of candy as if it were his own, was the final straw that would seal his fate. The sheer audacity it took to not just steal, but to open new merchandise to continue stealing. On top of devouring an entire box of specialty cookies that aren't even good, it enraged me. I went to my boss, got some vague promises about checking if the security cameras in our wing were even functional, and then went straight to Amazon and ordered a nanny cam. Not for my baby, for my snack hoard. It conveniently arrived the day before Valentine's Day. I set it up on top of a filing cabinet, aiming it down at my desk. On the desk, I laid out a fantastic spread of bait. I put out all the thief's apparent favorites. And then, I took it one step further. I bought myself a heart-shaped box of Valentine's chocolates, broke the seal to make it look more inviting, and left it right in the middle of the desk. The next morning, I walked in to find absolute snack carnage. My thief had been getting more brazen over time. But this was a whole new level. Individually wrapped items had been dumped out of their boxes, and bits of packaging were just thrown around. And yes, they had eaten my Valentine's candy. I pulled the memory card and played back the video. The office was quiet for hours, just the shadows lengthening as the sun set. And then, shortly before midnight, the night janitor arrived. He walked right into my office, sat down in my chair, and proceeded to have a 12-minute snack break with my food. This revealed the thief's greatest fatal flaw, a sense of complete impunity. Believing that no one would ever question the actions of a person who was supposed to be invisible. I started snapping screenshots. I got him shoveling candy into his mouth with a full palm-to-lips motion, pouring things out onto my desk so he could pick his favorite flavors. He didn't even bother to put things back where he found them. And yes, I got a clear shot of him eating my goddamn Valentine's candy. Those screenshots went straight into an email to my boss. Then I went straight to my boss's door to hover and grin until he read it. I got immediate assurances that a strongly worded email was being sent to the cleaning company and that this particular employee would be barred from our building. I was also tactfully asked to please take my unauthorized spy camera home, which I did. As one commenter later said, "Messing with mommy's food is dangerous." I thought it was over. But then the girl who worked the concession stand down the hall stopped by my office to thank me. Apparently, the food thief would start his shift just as she was closing and would constantly harass her for free coffee in a way that made her deeply uncomfortable. Then, a receptionist came by with a similar story. I'd never seen the man, but for the women whose shifts overlapped with his, he had been a creepy and unwelcome presence. Word had spread fast after I showed the screenshots to a few coworkers. I hadn't told my husband what I'd done. When I first came home raging about the theft after my flu week, his only response had been, "You really shouldn't be leaving food at work." Then. But when I came home with the nanny cam and explained the whole story, his reaction surprised me. "You know," he said, "I think this is the first time I've seen you stand up for yourself. I'm proud of you. And you know what? I'm proud of me too." It's a powerful reminder that sometimes you have to fight for yourself, even if it's over something as small as a box of cookies. The real victory wasn't just catching a thief. It was reclaiming a piece of my own power in a time when I felt like I had very little. What's the smallest thing you've ever had to stand up for? And how did it end up making a bigger difference?